DETV Sports Update is powered by DART, Delaware's transit service. Moving forward.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back inside DETV Sports. We are back here on a Monday and a lot to decipher. Of course, off last week, we are back to talk about the NBA Finals and a bunch of other things going on here in the world of sports. The crew is back together as always. I'm joined by my partner, Matthew Maurer. Matthew, how we doing? How you feeling on a Monday here after a nice little weekend back?
Good, man. The Knicks did not take it, so I'm happy.
They did not. Oh, you're happy about that? Yeah, not so much another person on this set right now.
That's probably not.
But again, you've been traveling a little bit, obviously, a few weeks ago, making the trip, getting some NBA draft stuff done. And then how was it feel? You could stick around locally here this past weekend?
I got some other places I got to go. But, just this is that time of the year, man, trying to get this data, trying to get some of these resources, some of these people that I talked to, and just trying to get some of the utmost up to date. I couldn't go to Treviso this year in Italy. They're doing their Adidas Euro camp there, so I didn't get a chance to go there this year. I'm a little bummed out by that. I mean, of course, how would you not be? I mean,
would have been a nice trip.
Yeah, I think this year's draft's going to be interesting, and I look forward to coming forward for the next couple weeks to see what we got.
That's right. I believe 3 weeks from the day today will be our NBA draft preview show. We're going to go through when we get there Matthew's rankings, his mock draft. We'll also have some of my stuff as well, but we'll focus on Matthew and all the work that he's done throughout this process. So put that on your calendar. Monday, June 23rd, the week of the NBA draft. We'll have everything you need to know that Monday up ahead of Draft Thursday. So a lot going on, Matthew. You just alluded to a little some of it. Of course, as always, Dennis Pritchett is back behind the glass with us today. May have a few questions for us.
Sure.
We'll also have some trivia as we try to go 2-0 against Dennis here on set. Matthew knocking down that last one for us there. You tried to challenge Matthew with an NBA draft question a couple weeks ago. He knows better, I think, now going forward. He's going to have it out for us today. A lot to get into, Matthew. Let's start, though, with, of course, the NBA Finals. A few weeks ago, we had our NBA preview of the playoffs. We gave our picks, etc. I think both of us had Boston going back and repeating as champions. Jason Tatum goes down. They lose a tough series to the New York Knicks. A lot's going to change with Boston going forward. But they are no longer in the finals here. They do not return this year going back-to-back. It is the Indiana Pacers who finished off the Knicks over the weekend, Saturday night, to take home their Eastern Conference trophy there. They are your team representing the East for the first time in, I believe, over 20-something years now for the Indiana Pacers. So they're going back to the NBA Finals. Pascal Siakam, the MVP, and we're going to run. And Dennis has some highlights for you from that game against the Knicks on Saturday. Matthew, you talked about it. Knicks did not look good in that game. Didn't look like they were playing, to save their season in that matchup on Saturday night. Again, we knew they didn't have a lot of depth, etc. Indiana ran them up and down the floor in that series. Just couldn't stop the Pacers at all, the Knicks defensively. And, of course, Halliburton and Siakam, they get it done. So you'll see some of those highlights here initially. But here we are. It was last year where the Pacers took down the Knicks in 7 games. They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. It was kind of caught everybody by surprise. They made the trade for Pascal Siakam the summer before last year's journey. And now they come back with the same team. Nembhard has been really good for them. Naismith with some huge moments in the playoffs. Obviously, Halliburton and Siakam are their 1-2 punch. Miles Turner, solid. Your thoughts on the Pacers just initially here in the NBA Finals for the first time in over 20 years, led by Halliburton, led by Siakam. We'll get to the matchup with the Thunder a little bit later on as you see the highlights of them finishing off the Knicks. What a series it was for that man, Pascal Siakam. Your thoughts on the Pacers overall and maybe your point of view on them last year and just how they were able to keep it going throughout this year and once again in the playoffs having success?
I mean, to me, I'm not shocked that the Pacers have put together where they're at. I'm more shocked by Boston. I mean, because I think that's where most people had the Eastern Conference, closing out. But I do think that the one thing that I was most taken back by was just how unprepared I felt like the Knicks coaching staff was in these playoffs. I know Tibbs gets a really big reputation for being a defensive guy, but I kind of felt like Rick Carlisle outcoached him. And there were several times that Rick Carlisle put guys on that floor that I was like, they should be attacking them. Like, there was a time they put Jarace Walker out there. I mean, Jarace is...
Wow, I haven't seen him a lot this year, especially in the playoffs.
Barely played. And regular season, he barely played. But in the playoffs, he got a little bit of tick. And, of course, it just seemed like to me Tibbs didn't know how to anticipate what they were doing. And I think some of that was Nesmith. Aaron Nesmith, he went hot a couple times in this game. Miles Turner hit a couple key threes. I mean, it really was a team effort with
absolutely.
the Pacers. And, of course, Nembhard has been spectacular these playoffs. To me, look, at the end of the day, it was a team win. I think the bigger problem moving ahead for Indiana is going to be, are they able to continue with this hot streak and this hot shooting that they got from those guys when they go against the Thunder? On the flip side, I think New York has to evaluate. I think they have to evaluate the guys they have on their team. I think they have to evaluate if Tibbs is still the right guy to take them over. I don't know if Tibbs is that guy. I think Dolan, who's the owner of the Knicks, I think that's his guy. But I don't know if Tibbs is going to be the guy that can get them over the hump. Definitely, I liked what they did with bringing Cat in this year, although to me, as everybody knows, I'm not a big Cat guy. Yeah. But at the end of the day, look, this is success for New York. I mean, New York, essentially, if we're being honest, hasn't really been a real player in the playoffs in a very long time. So the fact they've even gotten to the conference finals, look, if you're a New York Knicks fan, you're happy. I don't care what anybody says. Of course, you'd rather them be in the NBA Finals. But as a Knicks fan, if you're a Knicks fan out there, you got to be excited. I mean, you haven't seen this level of consistency with your team since the Patrick Ewing era. So, really, I think it's a win-win for them.
Yeah, and we'll get back on the Pacers in a second, but I do want to stick with your point here. You know, on the Knicks, you mentioned Tibbs and, maybe being outcoached by Rick Carlisle, and you heard maybe Jeff Teague say this on the podcast a week or two ago. He says Brunson holds the ball for a lot, right? That offense doesn't seem like it has, much of a Tibbs, like you said, fingerprint on it, like, hey, let's run this, and then they're moving the ball, somebody's coming up and, getting in the action, et cetera. It's just Jalen Brunson, pick and roll, and move it around. He holds the ball for a while and then tries to make it play. And that is what it looked like, and they've had success doing that, obviously, in the first couple rounds of the playoffs. But if you want to win a championship or be a championship contender, you're going to have a little bit more than that. And Indiana ran them up and down the floor. Again, when you have a team like the Knicks who had no depth, right? You talk about Tibbs, and that's one of his things, right? He's going to bury those guys into the ground, those starters. They're going to play 40 minutes, 40-plus minutes in the playoffs. Right. And we saw that again here. Josh Hurt playing with an injury. He came out after the series saying that. Brunson went down a few times throughout the series and in the series prior to this. Just a lot of different things can happen when you're playing those guys, over 40-plus minutes a game. And we saw them kind of get worn down by Indiana throughout the series. They were running and gunning. They had so much depth off of their bench, and those guys that we talked about coming in and really pushing the pace and just not really missing a beat. Even when Halliburton was off the floor for those few moments throughout this series, it seemed like they were still out there and still able to be effective. And a lot of that is because of Pascal Siakam, who was fantastic, again, in this series. A couple 30-point performances, including that clincher over the weekend. And he received one more vote, 5-4, to take home the Eastern Conference Finals MVP trophy. And again, we'll talk about the Knicks here in a second as well. But your thoughts quickly on Halliburton and Siakam for that MVP. To me, I could have been to either one. Obviously, everyone looks to Halliburton to be that guy, to be that MVP. But I think when you look at some of the games that the Pacers won, including that big one down the stretch, I believe Game 2, when Siakam went off and kind of single-handedly won them that game. Your thoughts on the MVP trophy? I think it could have gone either way. I'm not too disappointed either way, so I'm okay with Siakam grabbing it.
No, I'm good with Halliburton or Siakam getting it. I do think that Siakam is the most, what's the word I'm looking for? I think he's the guy that has to play at a high level for them to win. I think he's the most important player on that team. I think Halliburton, I think you can pencil him for his 20. I think you can pencil him for 8 to 9 assists. Siakam is the guy that they have to get going. When they play the Thunder, they have to get him going. If he doesn't get going, it's going to be a quick series. Yeah,
it certainly will be. We're going to dive into that full matchup here in a few moments. Now let's backtrack, talk about the Knicks like we talked about. Not a lot of depth. They go and get Cat, as you mentioned. Some words, he played decent in the playoffs, right? I think he was a 22-14 guy or 22-12, something like that here this year. We'll get the official stats in a moment. But he was effective, but down the stretch in some of these games, he had those moments that kind of been the reason that me and you aren't two big Cat fans that we had, throughout the past, especially on Saturday. Nowhere to be found down the stretch. Defensively, always, sometimes can be a liability, getting, with the physicality, being bullied a little bit down there. Turner, I think, played against him really well. Siakam was able to take him a few times. So, again, the numbers were a little bit there, and obviously the Knicks looked good. And you mentioned you can't be disappointed as a Knicks fan, right? You make the second round, a chance to go to the NBA Finals. You got to be happy with that.
Right.
But then you go back and you look at how it kind of was, the table was set for them, right? They had home court in the Eastern Conference Finals. Tatum gets hurt. They were going to win that series. They go down, and when you're going into this series against Indiana, like, oh, yeah, it'd be great. If you're going to play Boston in that series, you'd be like, oh, yeah, if we lose, whatever, it's a good season. And then you get Indiana with home court advantage, and you still couldn't get it done. I think that hurts a little bit more, but I'm with you. A good season for what maybe they were expecting. But where do you think the Knicks go here? How do they improve? A little bit, obviously, Cat's first year at MSG, with the New York, et cetera.
Right.
Is he still going to be there next year? Obviously, maybe some people think it's crazy that he might be. There's some rumors that they might be trying to take a big swing. Maybe they flip Cat for another big-time player or something like that. Or maybe they just keep Cat and make some minor adjustments, right? They need some depth off the bench. They need another guy, another ball handler, a guy that can handle the basketball, a two-way player in that regard offensively, and then maybe a couple guys off the bench, some depth pieces, and then, maybe they can really compete for a championship. What, in your opinion, the Knicks got to do next year to, again, they had a successful season, but not quite, again, championship contender the way they went down to Indiana?
Well, I think the most important position for them to get an upgrade on is probably going to be the offensive coach. Rick Brunson, he's solid. He's the one that's primarily responsible for a lot of, and he's Jalen Brunson's father. Mm-hmm. He's the one that's primarily responsible for a lot of their offensive sets. And I think a lot of their sets are very predictable. We kind of know what Jalen Brunson's going to do, so I think that creates an issue. I'd like them to see them get a big. They need somebody else who's going to give a little bit of a defensive presence, better help defense. I mean, OG, here's the thing.
Played really well. OG played really well in the playoffs. I think he was the best player in this, almost the best player in this series.
For sure.
For New York.
And I think that the problem that they're going to run into is I think Mikal Bridges gets in OG's way. And I think Mikal Bridges, I don't know if he's the guy that people thought they were getting when they got him from Brooklyn. I think there were some fans that thought Mikal Bridges is a superstar. He's going to be that next guy for us. Look out.
And he showed flashes, when he was with Phoenix and Brooklyn, he was able to do that. There wasn't a lot of star power around him, right? So he was able to have kind of those, you don't want to say Kevin Love inflated stats like he was in Minnesota, but kind of, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. And now we don't know. Now he looks like a really good pro, but we don't know if he's going to be that third guy that can go out there and give the Knicks what they need. So I think that's really what they have to decide. I would really like to see them get a big that can go around, that can move. Kind of like what OKC gets with Chet Holmgren. I like
them getting Hartenstein as well last
Correct.
year.
That was huge for them. And look, I get New York getting letting certain players go. I mean, I think Mitchell Robinson, if he can ever get fully healthy, I think he's a really good weapon for them long term.
I think if you look at that, go to that bench that we talked about, they need guys that come on. He'll be a part of that bench stuff, Deuce McBride, but then you need other guys besides those two off the bench. And just to go back here, and I want to get your opinion because you said it, you talked about Mikal Bridges, and it's funny because we're still harping on Indiana and New York, but kind of like similar pathways, right? Indiana goes out and they make the trade for Siakam in the summer, so they bring in their big guy, and then New York, they had been coveting those assets for years and years, and then what do? They spend it all on Bridges. And who outplayed? It was Siakam that was the big part of this series, not Mikal Bridges. So, again, you could say that trade worked out better or benefited Indiana there more than that trade of Bridges to the Knicks. And this is kind of what it looked like here. In the Pacers, they got Siakam in the second-round pick for 2 first-round picks in the 24 draft, a 2026 first-round pick conditional, and then Kira Lewis, Bruce Brown, and Jordan Nwora. So a couple players there. And then you look at what the Knicks gave up for Mikal Bridges. So the Knicks got Bridges, and they got the draft rights. Got taken off here. One night on that trade. Draft nights to Juan Pablo Valle, I believe if you know him, 26 second-round pick, and Bridges. And then the Nets got in return Shake Milton, Bojan Bogdanovic, first-round picks in 25, 27, 29, and 31, a pick swap in 28, and a top 4 pick in 2025 from Milwaukee, plus another second-round pick in 2025. Yeah. So when you look at it there, it's almost like the Pacers got Siakam at a discount as opposed to what the Knicks spent on Mikal Bridges.
Sure.
And again, I'm one of the biggest Mikal Bridges fans there is in the country. And he had some big moments in that first series with the Knicks and those games against the Boston Celtics. Some big moments there. But Siakam's holding that Eastern Conference Finals MVP trophy. And that's kind of the difference. He outplayed, Bridges and a lot of those other Knicks there in that series. He was a huge part for Indiana. And how about Indiana's front office a few years ago? A team that hasn't paid the luxury tax in over 25 years. Right. And then they go out and they trade for Tyrese Halliburton. Phenomenal trade there. The Kings send him over there. Great trade. And then they build around him. They bring in Siakam, another all-star finals player. That was phenomenal. Already has a ring. And it is all fitting in pretty swimmingly there in Indiana. So shout out to the front office there. And word out of the Indiana is they're going to pay that tax this year. Like we said, for the first time in 25 years, they want to bring this team back for next year. They're willing to go into that ownership said, something they've never done. Right. So we'll see if they decide to keep that team together. But they've got the finals ahead of them. So we'll see what Indiana can do, and we're going to keep this rolling here. But just wanted to put a bow on the Knicks talk. Some words of Al Horford there maybe transitioning, because Boston most likely going to have a year where they're not going to be effective. Tatum's out, some different pieces falling out. So maybe Horford in the last couple of years can head over, play the 4 alongside Karl-Anthony Towns in New York, come off the bench there maybe, and see if that's something like that. But the Knicks got to do something heading into next year.
For sure. And look, I think that's kind of what the trade that you just mentioned, the trades that were happening. Pascal Siakam was supposed to be going down, and then Bridges was supposed to be going up. Yeah. And what it looks like, Siakam still had some gas in the tank, and, maybe Mikal Bridges isn't the guy we all thought he was. I mean, I liked him coming out of Villanova. I thought he was great value. I still think he has great value, and being a defender and being able to catch and shoot threes. I just don't know if the ability to be a consistent 18, 20-point scorer, I don't know if it's there for him in the mix of being a part of a big, 3, being one of those guys, a third option on a really good team. I don't know if he's that guy. So that's kind of the problem.
Yeah, and we've seen Siakam already do it. NBA Finals, 1-1 with Kawhi in Toronto, and now on his way to another Finals with some huge stats here in 2025 for Indiana. But again, they'll be taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder, the team that had one of the best regular seasons in NBA history. Matthew, the Thunder 29-1 against the Eastern Conference this year in the regular season. So for Indiana, you think a team to take 4 games in a series seems like it'd be pretty tough, but Indiana's playing some good basketball. We'll make our picks a little bit later on when we close out the show, but Thunder are heavy favorites here in this Finals, and of course, the only time they were really challenged was against Nikola Jokic, the Nuggets, taking them to 7 games, and we'll see how the Finals go, but then you start to look back and think, man, that Nuggets team might be better than everybody else thought, too, with Nikola Jokic, and he might be really letting it go. So both of these teams, though, what do they have in common? We said it a little bit earlier. They both traded Paul George to honestly how they got here, and that's kind of been the big talk, and I know people don't like to talk about it anymore, and et cetera, but let's talk about it for a few more minutes. So the Thunder, when they traded for Paul George, the Pacers got Oladipo and Sabonis, and obviously they parlayed Sabonis into Tyrese Halliburton, and that's the way they're there. And then when you look at what the Thunder got for Paul George when they sent him to the Clippers, this is always funny. You heard what Mikal Bridges got, seemed like a lot. Well, how about this one? The Thunder for Paul George got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was the MVP this year. Danilo Gallinari, who was effective at the time of that trade, a decent role player. Miami Heat 2021 unprotected first-round pick. Clippers 2022 unprotected first-round pick. Clippers 2024 unprotected first-round pick. Heat's lottery-protected 2025 first-round pick. Swaps with the Clippers in 2025 and 2026 first-round pick as well.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a haul.
That's a haul. And not only that, you thought that even when the time you made this trade that the Clippers, when getting him, would, they're playing to win now. They'd be the team that would be in the finals in the next couple of years, and the Thunder would still be rebuilding. And not only are the Thunder not rebuilding anymore, they are the favorites by a large margin to win the NBA Finals. I mean, it is ridiculous. And not only that, they still have all these assets that they've acquired in all of these trades. We'll try to find it here in a moment. Check this out. This is what the Thunder have still right now. 2 firsts and a second next year, 2 firsts and a second the year after, 2 firsts and 2 seconds the year after that, and then 1 first, 3 seconds, 1 first, 5 seconds. That's the next 5 drafts for the Thunder. At least 20 total picks, and that's excluding the protected picks, over the next 5 drafts. They are also the NBA's youngest team at 24.2 years old, and they are heading to the finals. I don't know if I've seen a team prepared for future success like this, in a long time. They've got the picks. They've already got the young talent now.
Right.
Sky's the limit for this Thunder team. You looking forward? They haven't won the finals yet. I think we'll both make our picks later, but here's a little shocker here. I'm going to go with the Thunder in the series. Can they win this one? What are we looking at the next couple of years for a team that's built like they can win a few? Because we talked about it 2 years ago when the Nuggets won their first.
Yep.
Oh, they could win 2 or 3. They are built to win the next couple. Didn't happen. Celtics last year. Oh, they're going to go back. They're going to win back-to-back titles. They're big favorites. Didn't happen. What do you think about the Thunder?
I think they're set up to have a potential dynasty. And here's something. I just looked this up because I was interested. So what you just referenced, the Paul George trade, you want to hear something even crazier? So they got Danilo. They got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. They got a first-round pick in 2022. That first-round pick was Jalen Williams. So essentially they got Jalen Williams. They got Shea.
And that was their co-star.
So, and this is what other people don't understand, too, about the Thunder. So last year, Nikola Topic was an overseas guard who a lot of people, including myself, thought he was a top 5 talent. He got injured. And a lot of teams said, well, if I got to wait on him, I'd rather not pick him right now. So he dropped while the Thunder took him. The Thunder having Topic next year on the team. So now they're going to have Topic added to that situation along with other guys. And they probably have the most draft capital, I think all the way out to 2028.
Yeah,
I don't think there's anybody that's even close to them in terms of total picks. So, yeah, if Sam Presti, who is the GM of the Thunder, continues to make shrewd moves, they could be in a serious situation where they're driving for a long time on this road of being a contender. So, yeah.
They are set. You said it. And again, they'll be heading back to the finals already and only challenged really by the Nuggets in that 7-game series. Again, that one was a great series to watch, and then making quick work of Minnesota, and we'll see what they can do with Indiana. So we talked about it a little bit earlier, the Thunder favorites in the finals here against the Pacers. It all begins on Thursday on ABC for this year's 2025 finals, Oklahoma City and the Indiana Pacers. And we talked about it a little bit already, but the kind of the big thing here when you think about these two teams, right, is Oklahoma City is being the big defensive team, the best in the league defensively, and then you've got Indiana who's been relying on the offense, right, up-tempo, pace, more shots, more points. They're scoring in the 120s, and the Knicks try to keep them down, et cetera. But offense versus defense is what we're going to get in the finals. I'm going with the Thunder. I'm going to take them in 6 games. I think a little piece of me thinks the Pacers can pull out 2 games, one way or another. So I'm going to take the Thunder in 6. What shot do you give the Pacers to make this a series against Oklahoma City?
Honestly, depends on Piasco Saquon. If he continues to play at the level that he played in the Eastern Conference Finals, and maybe they get that shooting from Nembhard, do I think they can push to 6? Maybe. I think at a default, even if Saquon plays well, Pascal Saquon plays well, I think it's OKC in 5. I think OKC, the way they are constructed, the way they are, I don't believe in Miles Turner. I think Miles Turner had a really good series. I don't believe in him. I don't believe in Thomas Bryant. They had a lot of guys that showed up out of nowhere for the Pacers.
I know this sounds a bad reflection on myself, but I had no idea Thomas Bryant. We're really good with that kind of stuff. When I saw Thomas Bryant hitting threes for the Pacers, I was like, oh my goodness, Thomas Bryant's on this team.
It's crazy. Yeah. So I just think, and again, OKC, and a lot of people aren't talking about it as much because look, we get infatuated by Shea, we get infatuated by Jalen Williams, but the real key piece that kind of changed the dynamic of OKC has been Chet Holmgren's ability to roam and create really hard, difficult shots. He's a tremendous help defender, shot blocker, guy that can really get in the way, covers a lot of ground. He's difficult. And, of course, Hartenstein was a really good free agent pickup who I liked coming out of the draft as well. So, look, a lot of these things are coming out, and I just think that OKC, if we're talking about man for man, I just think that I don't see how the Pacers show up and win and really get their first title since the ABA. So I just don't see it. I think OKC is going to get a title, and I think Shea Gilgeous Alexander is going to start making a case for being the face of the league. I still think he's got a while to go for that. I don't believe there is a face of the league yet. There's been a lot of talk about it being Jokic.
Edwards?
No, not even Edwards. I've heard Jokic, Giannis, and Shea Gillis. I don't think any of those guys are face of the league. The face of the league to me are still LeBron James and Stephen Curry. To me, that's the face of the league. If your grandmother knows them, that's the face of the league.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Right now, these guys, the nerds know them, the hoop heads know them, but your grandma don't know who Shea is. She doesn't know who Jokic is, and she doesn't know who most of these other guys are. She knows who LeBron James is, and she knows who Curry is. That's
even
why,
Durant a little bit too in there.
And Durant a little bit, surely. But like everybody's mama knew Jordan. Everybody's mama knew Barkley. There's certain faces, yeah. And being a face of the league isn't just about talent. It's also about marketability and how you know that player without even watching them. So right now, the league doesn't really have those guys other than LeBron James and Curry.
And I think you're right. And, just a hypothetical to your point here, you think, if Shea Gilgeous-Alexander walked down the street.
Right.
You wouldn't get Steph Curry, LeBron James couldn't walk down the street, right?
No,
and maybe we're underselling Shea. Maybe he couldn't either. But I don't think that if he walked down the street, too many people would,
It's a little different.
It's a little different. Exactly.
I
don't want to sound like I'm being, but it's a little different.
Yeah,
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. If Shea or some of these other guys go to, I don't know, let's just say a venue, I'm not saying there's not going to be people there that are going to know who he is. I'm saying the whole place isn't going to know who he is.
Yeah.
When LeBron or Curry go, every single person is going to know that's LeBron and that's Stephen Curry. Half the room is going to know who Shea is, and that's the difference. That's what we're talking about.
Good way of putting it. And again, we're all big Shea fans here.
Huge
Obviously,
Shea fans.
we've been, MVP for us, I think the last 2 years. We both had him last year as well. Didn't win that one. But this year, I'm pretty sure he's going to have that trophy for this one. Again, both of us, all three of us, Dennis also going with the Thunder in 5 games as well over the Pacers there. So again, we'll see. Thunder or the Pacers, they're sitting pretty good too. Obviously not the favorites to win the finals, but going into next year in an Eastern Conference that has a lot of question marks now with Giannis' availability up in the air for Milwaukee. Where is he going to be? Dame Lillard going to miss the season. Jason Tatum going to miss the season in Boston. You look at the Eastern Conference, right, and you look at a few teams for next year. You're looking Indiana. The Knicks have to make some improvements, but they'll be in the mix. And Cleveland, right? The Cavs after the season they had this year. And to me, I think, and maybe I'm being a little crazy, Matthew, what do you think about if the Sixers are able to return healthy? Again, I just told you 2 teams that are probably going to be out of it because of injuries and things that have happened, you know, off the floor, et cetera. If they get a healthy Embiid back, Maxey comes back, Paul George, I would love for the Sixers to stay put at 3 and take Ace Bailey. I don't know what they're going to do. We'll see what happens there, but I would love to have Ace Bailey in Philadelphia. Your thoughts on the Sixers? Could they be in the mix next year with the way things are kind of falling here in the Eastern Conference?
They can only be in the mix if Embiid's in the mix.
Yeah.
If Embiid's fully invested in the season, I think they got a good shot at making a push. If Embiid doesn't have the investment, you can forget about it, unfortunately.
And that's going to be the big question mark. And we heard Daryl Morey, who always likes to remain positive, say that he expects him to come back fully healthy next year. I don't buy that right now, so we'll see what he get. But you're right. If it's Embiid healthy and those guys come back, and maybe we'll kind of we need McCain back as well. He'll be coming back off that injury. So, there's a light at the end of the tunnel potentially for Philadelphia. But, again, it all falls on number 21. So you're absolutely right there. We'll see what happens with Joel Embiid. Quickly, though, just before we move on from the Sixers, third pick in the draft, I asked this a few weeks ago. You staying put, or are you looking to trade that for another big piece?
I still believe in Ace Bailey in terms of.
I do. And I think he could even have an immediate impact. Like,
for sure.
I mean, that is more of a best case scenario, but I think he could have immediate impact too. So you like him at 3?
Yeah, I still like him at 3. He hasn't changed off my radar.
Yeah, see, I take him there as well. Again, San Antonio linked to your guy, Dylan Harper. And then, of course, Cooper Flagg going to be the number 1 pick to the Dallas Mavericks. So, again, basketball heating up. Finals begin on Thursday, Indiana and OKC. And, again, for the loyal, hoop fans, we'll watch those games for sure, but again, on a wider margin, maybe not what the NBA had hoped for, even though they're really trying to push that narrative that it's as long as it's going to be a good series, et cetera. But I think if it was like a few different teams, maybe some major markets, they would probably be a little bit more excited.
Yeah.
But I think the Thunder are on the path to becoming the NBA champions. So, again, we'll see what happens. Either way, one franchise will have their first NBA title at the end of this NBA Finals. So, congratulations to both teams for making it. Again, it's been a crazy year, an interesting year. and it all starts our finals on Thursday. So now moving from basketball to football, Matthew, we
Yep.
have our new Madden cover athlete. And Dennis is going to put him up on the screen for everybody at home. And it's somebody that we know and love here on DETV Sports. Your cover athlete for Madden 2026 is Saquon Barkley. There it is, the reverse hurdle in the game against the Jaguars. And we were talking, everything about it or that comes with it aside, it is a fantastic picture, and it's going to be a fantastic cover.
For sure. Love it.
But now we've got to talk about the dark side.
Yeah,
right?
dark side.
So, and there always is when it comes to the Madden curse, and it's been since I was a kid.
Yes, same
and we
thing.
talked about it, right? And every year it would happen and happen, and then people I think people did start to forget about it later on, but that didn't mean it didn't exist. It was there. So if we go over here, I want to see if I can find what I'm looking for, but it was Saquon Barkley this year. Last year's cover athlete was somebody that you know very well, and your team over there in San Francisco.
Yeah,
it was
CMC.
Christian McCaffrey.
Terrible.
So if we're just going back even just a year,
yeah,
it didn't work out for him. I took him with the number 1 overall pick in my fantasy football draft last year, and didn't play much, if at all. So that's starting on the curse. While I look up the rest of these statistics there, I want to get your opinion on the Madden curse, and I think I already have your answer. I think it's real.
It's real. It's real. I don't see anybody can say it's different. I mean, if you just go through. So, like, real quick, here's some guys. Peyton Hillis didn't do well. Adrian Peterson, he got his injury there. 2 games, undergo surgery following the season. Richard Sherman went Tommy John surgery. Odell Beckham, 2016, had his issues. Sean Alexander, broken foot, week 3. Vince Young, 2008, quad injury. Brett Favre, retired, injured his biceps and his tendon. Jets finished 1-4, his play. Drew Brees, they went 7-9. Didn't go as well. Let me see. Michael Vick suffered a broken fibula. Ray Lewis, broken wrist, forced him to sit out the final game of the 2004 season.
Antonio Brown, 2019. I think that was his last year that he had before he mentally fell off the face of the planet.
Yep. Barry Sanders retired after his season.
So,
there's only like a handful of guys. You got Eddie George.
Patrick Mahomes in 2020.
Mahomes. Who else? Calvin Johnson had a really spectacular season. And Eagles fans may remember this. Do you remember Donovan McNabb in 2006? Injured a groin during a Week 10 matchup with the Cowboys and placed on season IR later on that week. So, look, people can say it's nonsense. And if I'm an Eagles fan, I surely would say it's nonsense.
You would like to make yourself believe it.
For sure. But as a person who has lived with the curse, who has dealt with the curse, to me it's real. I don't care what anybody says. I look. If I was the owner of a team, I would put it in guys' contracts. Like, bro, you cannot be part of the Madden, bro. I don't believe. That Madden curse to me is a real deal, man. I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. Don't want it.
I'm with you. I couldn't agree more, and I hate that I believe that way. I don't know if I'm necessarily a superstitious person in other aspects, but I'm with you. I don't want any part of this. I mean, 17 out of the 28 Madden cover athletes from 99 to 2025, that's over 61%, have experienced injuries, lackluster years, or career setbacks in the season following their covering appearances. This includes at least 8 to 10 players with significant injuries and 6 to 8 with poor performances or other issues off the field. So again, not universal, but something's going on. It doesn't even have to affect the play. Maybe you just play bad, you either get hurt or you just play bad, or something else off the field happens. Curse is a good way to describe it. Yeah. So, and not only that, I don't want to double down because again, I'm all in on the Eagles going back to back, but any running back that has led the league in touches over the last 4 years has gotten hurt and missed a majority of the next season. Yeah. Saquon Barkley had over 450 to 500 touches last year. That by far led the NFL. Yeah. No running back has been able to do that and stayed healthy the next year. I know that sounds crazy, but no running back has done it. Nobody. Like, you talk about the Josh Jacobs year when he had it with the Raiders. Next year, hurt. He missed it. McCaffrey last year. This year, missed the whole season. I mean, you can go back. There are so many examples. So I'm a little bit nervous.
Then we get to find out if your boy's top 5.
Yeah, you're right.
And then we get to find out if Nick Sirianni's a real coach.
And see, I'm looking forward to that. I am. But again, going back to that, isn't that amazing? Is that not amazing?
Yeah.
I mean, that's you. So now if you're Saquon Barkley, you were going up against that already. You were already up against the green, going up against that. That's a curse in itself, leading the NFL in touches. That's a curse.
Yeah.
So now you got to pair that with the Madden curses. Now he's got 2 curses.
He's serious.
2.
Serious. It's bad business.
So now, off topic quickly, though, you're in your fantasy football draft. You're sitting at pick number 2.
I'm not taking him.
You're not taking pick number 3.
I'd have to.
You taking him at 3. I go Jamar Chase, Bijan 1-2.
Yeah.
Gibbs or Saquon then?
I would take Gibbs.
So you got Saquon at 4 then, which isn't bad. I'm just saying. I mean, that's the way it lines up in terms of not just fantasy.
Because that's how I am so weirded out by.
Yeah, he's got 2 curses. I don't think anybody else has ever had 2 curses.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, look, let me just state this. I hope he's healthy. I hope
absolutely.
I hope he breaks the curse. I am not wishing on it at all.
Absolutely.
It's just. Man, that's a lot.
God, I hope he stays healthy. We're praying.
I bet you guys are.
Area that he
Nick Sirianni really have to coach.
But we'll say we're hoping that he does, in fact, stay healthy. And another thing that I did want to mention that it does, it just slipped my mind here quickly. Oh, Frank Ragnow, the center for the Lions, 29 years old, all-pro, announced his retirement today. Came out of nowhere, out of left field. Nobody saw this coming. So, again, I'm Jameer Gibbs, owner in Dynasty and Fantasy. So I'm hoping that they figure that out. Again, one of the best offensive lines last year. How do they replace him up front? So just a quick little thing. So we'll see what happens with Gibbs. You know, just a quick tidbit there that happened today. Very unexpected. I think he was 29. I think he was 29 when he retired today. Like he was a first round pick in 2018.
LSU, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I mean, he was maybe the best center in football.
Yeah. So definitely talented.
So it's a shame there. Again, didn't know he was dealing with all these injuries. He was playing through a lot, so that all came out today. So congratulations on a phenomenal career, but going to be missed there, especially up front for that Detroit Lions offensive line. They're going to have to rebuild that some way or another. But, Saquon Barkley going up against 2 different things. We're hoping that he stays healthy.
Definitely hope he does, for sure.
Now we're going to head to the new NCAA Football 2026 game coming out this summer. Matthew, you were all on it when it first came out, the inaugural one last year. We heard about your Nebraska team and what you were able to do behind the scenes. Well, now you're going to have the new game coming out in July, and there's going to be a new team that you're going to be able to play with in the new game. I can't wait. It's going to be the University of Delaware Blue Hens. And not only are you going to be able to play with Delaware next year, the coaches will be in the game, the players will be in the game. I have to talk about maybe they can get me in the game. Like on the sideline, you'll see me all the time. We'll see.
There you go.
But they were used in the trailer for the new game. So University of Delaware on the scoreboard there in the trailer for the release of the new game, also going to be in it. So I'll ask you this now. Are you going to move from Nebraska? Maybe we can get the cover for that coming up here to show you. But are you going to go use Nebraska, or are you going to go now with the Blue Hens when that new game comes out?
Little unknown fact about me. I actually grew up a stone's throw from the stadium. So my whole youth has been around the University of Delaware, Tubby Raymond Field.
Oh.
So, of course.
And I have to get you to a game this year. What
of course, I'm a Blue Hen guy. And, of course, I would be going – I'll be using the Blue Hens exclusively. I'm a huge Blue Hen guy. Yeah, for sure. So I got to try and make them dominant. But
how many years do you – take them again? Our first year in FBS next year. How many years you're holding up that trophy? You're battling in the playoff.
At least 5 years. Man.
It's gonna take a while. It might take a while, man. We'll see if Coach Cardi can do it
in
the same amount of time.
Them pipelines ain't too good, man. Them pipelines ain't too good.
Get some of those transfers in. We'll get it rolling up in there as well. It's gonna be fun, but we're excited. Delaware in the game for next year.
That's fact. Conference USA.
Yeah, how about that? Conference USA. A lot of travel. It's gonna be a lot of fun for all the sports, especially football and basketball. A lot of transfers coming in the last couple of weeks. So hopefully, again, off a trip to the CAA title game. Hopefully they have some success next year in the Conference USA as well. Now it's about that time for the show. We're going to have Dennis's question of the day, and then following that, we'll get his trivia question of the day. So, Dennis, feel free to go either way here to start, and we'll hit both of them here before we conclude today's show.
Are the Phillies a legitimate championship team with the current roster?
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say yes, Matthew. I know it's been a tough, and Dennis is only raising this question today because of the rough weekend the Phillies had. And baseball is a long season. It is a long season. It starts too early. It ends too late. But it is long. and the Phillies are in a good position, right? It was just before the weekend series with the Brewers started that the Phillies were at the #1 record in baseball. So I think we're getting a little carried away, but it was not a good showing. In fact, it was the poorest showing, I believe, in 20 to 30 years in one of the losses to the Brewers. They got beat 17-7 in that game. I think it was the most runs by a starting pitcher given up by the Phillies since the early 90s and late 80s. So it was a rough weekend. They drop a sweep to the Milwaukee Brewers, who are right now the hottest team in baseball. Rhys Hoskins had a nice return home at Citizens Bank Park. But yes, it was a tough three losses over the weekend. They're still right there in prime position. Nobody's really jumping out. The Braves are having a bad season, so you don't have to really worry about them yet in the NL East. The Mets are right there, but still the Phillies got a few games on them as well. A lot of time left. I think they can win a championship with this roster. Have to improve the bullpen. After losing Alvarado, to the PEDs, he's gone for 80 games plus this season. They need to make a move, in my opinion, here by the deadline to get somebody in that bullpen. We'll see if they move Ranger Suarez back there, but he's been good once again in that starting rotation. We'll see how the rotation works out, whether they go 5 or 6 guys there. Maybe we see Andrew Painter come up a little bit later on. So there are guys that they can add from within the organization that are going to be better, but they need to figure out that bullpen, because if not, I just don't see them having success in the postseason. So to answer your question, I do think they can win it, Dennis. One small move away, in my opinion. We need somebody on the back end.
I wish I could be that positive.
I knew you weren't going to be.
I love the Phillies.
I know.
They
Michael Jack.
They piss me off because here's the thing. Other than Schwarber, and I do agree with you, I think their bats will heat up eventually. Schwarber's come out red hot on fire. Yeah, he's the and I agree with you. The pitching is where the biggest issue is. So other than Wheeler, Lozandu's been great, and there's the other kid, Sanchez? Is it Sanchez?
Yeah, Christopher Sanchez. Yeah. Nola has not been good. We can leave him out. He's coming back hopefully from that ankle, and I don't even think it was a real ankle injury. I just needed some time.
Walker has not been what we thought he was going to be.
Yeah, he's. I don't know what we're going to do with him.
Yeah. At this point, we need another. Philly needs another guy. Right now.
So I felt last year too.
Yeah, our only ace is Wheeler. We need another ace. We need another guy that's going to come in there that we can get a guaranteed low ERA. We can get a guy that's going to come in there and really put the pressure on the opposing hitters. We ain't got that guy right now other than Wheeler. We really don't. Most of these other guys, look, again, I think we got guys that are good, but we don't have guys that pitchers fear other than Wheeler. And I don't think they fear him, if we're being honest. He's tremendous, but I don't think they fear him. Again, they irritate me because, and I guess the problem I've had with Walker is when we got Walker, there was all this push, and there was he's going to be one of the better ones. You just wait and see, and we're still waiting. We haven't seen it.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to at this point.
No.
Either. So let's see what happens. Maybe they move him to the bullpen. I don't even think that'll be a good idea to put him there either. Maybe. No. We'll figure it out, but I think it's going to take a little tweaking, but they can do it. They're right there,
and
so we'll see if they can do it.
He's no spring chicken.
It's getting up there. I think both of them signed new deals, Nola and Wheeler. Wheeler just in this past offseason, so going to be making some money into those mid-30s, so we'll see what's going on. Again, that window is shrinking. We talked about it. It's been now 4 years of Harper, Castellanos, Schwarber, these guys, JT, Real Muto, but their contracts are up. This is the last year they're together with contracts.
Jose Alvarado. Bro, you've been doing PEDs, and this is what we got, bro. Come on, bro. If you're going to do PEDs, be Roger Clemens, bro. Come on, bro. So this is what we getting from the PEDs.
They interviewed him in the spring, and they asked him, what are you trying to do to get better as we head into the regular season, et cetera. And he said, I'm trying to lose some weight. So they traced it in what they believed to be a weight loss drug. Yes. Can you imagine something like that as the reason for it? We don't know the specifics.
I hope that's the reason.
Yeah, but even so, can't you just do it the old-fashioned way? Why do we have to get Ozempic? Why do we have to do all this nowadays?
Come on, bro.
Let's just do it the old-fashioned way. You can get back in shape, right? You can exercise and stuff, right?
Oh, man, this is what we got, bro.
All right, Dennis, let's go to the trivia question here on a Monday. As we are in pretty much a little bit of our off-season here on DETV Sports. We are firmly into the finals in the draft and then, of course, into the NFL. But, Dennis, what do you got for us today? 1-0 against you. Now he's going to give us something tough because we have the 1-0 lead. Let's see what Dennis has for the trivia question of the day here on June 2nd, 2025.
What NFL logo is the one that faces to the left?
Like you're not saying, Dennis, only on one side of the helmet. You're saying facing the left.
Facing.
So like facing the left, as in like towards the face mask or away from it. I guess it would be towards the face mask, right?
I would think, yeah.
Away from it. Okay, so we're
Away
tailoring towards the back end of the helmet.
Ooh.
Interesting. All right. Well, then we have a couple minutes here. Let's brainstorm here, man. Let's talk about it. I like to go by division. So when he first asked the question, I initially thought, hey, maybe he meant Pittsburgh Steelers because they're the only team with one logo on the left side of the helmet, but it doesn't face to the left side. So when you think about other teams there, the Bengals don't really have a logo. They're just the stripes. You look at the Ravens.
Browns don't have one.
Ravens facing, I believe, forward the same way the Seahawks are. Those are the two birds there. Cardinals facing forward. Rams all through that. Panthers are
Lions.
Forward. Lions are forward, I believe, as well.
To the left. This is, oof.
It's an interesting question, too, because I'm running through the divisions in my head, and I hate to have everybody that's tuning in just to watch us think about this question, but we are. We are.
Yeah, I got to pull NFL. No, I'm pulling up the standings.
He's looking at the standings to look at what teams are in the league.
So I can get the teams of the standings, bro. That's all I'm trying to do.
Is it the New England Patriots? All right, there we go. That was my official guess.
Yeah, I might have to tap out. So let me see.
Tennessee
standings.
Titans. I'm over 2. There's no way
Buffalo,
you can give me 3 shots.
New England. Let me see. No.
NFC or AFC? We'll run out of time. We've got one more guess each of us, and then we are going down.
Hold on. Eagles. I didn't cheat. I looked at each division.
I don't know if we're gonna get the win on that one or not, but it's gonna be up to the to the judgment group. It's gonna go to the judges on that one. But Matthew almost going 2 for 2. So Dennis, explain what you mean with the Eagles helmet. He's gonna bring out.
It's the only one that faces to the left. Hold on. As you can see,
Okay, here we
it's the only logo that faces to the left. Every other logo.
So I misinterpret. I was going based off of logos on the helmets while they were on field.
You know, even my Eagles one wasn't right because I was thinking because the bird feathers go back. So okay.
But so I get. Hey, wow! I never even knew that, Dennis. Actually, wow! How about that?
You're an Eagles fan.
How was I supposed to? The only team with the logo going left. Interesting. That is very interesting, Dennis. We'll give you the win on that one.
That's a dub for him. That's a dub.
1-1. Good one there. That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I'll have to move on there. So sorry for everybody at home that had to watch us struggle to answer the trivia question here tonight after Matthew reeled off the answer to the last one in about 5 seconds back a few weeks ago. Yeah. So Dennis is going to get us tougher and tougher here as we close out on a Monday evening. So we've gotten through a lot of stuff here tonight, Matthew. Anything else that we missed that you want to go back and chat about in the last week or so? We got the finals coming up on Thursday. We talked about that. Some other things. You talked about your draft coming up around the corner. We'll get into fantasy football in a few weeks because we're ready to dive in early there as well. And then we're going to start our NFL division previews early this year in the summer. We didn't get through all of them. We started too late last year, so we now know we're going to start getting into that a little bit earlier for everyone as well who appreciates that. So where do you want to go here on a Monday night?
So I do want to take a little bit of time real quick to talk about the impact of NIL on the NFL draft and the NBA draft. Yeah. So in particular, the NFL draft, I think you saw certain quarterbacks like Carson Beck didn't go. There was other guys that I think
contracted Miami.
Right. I think they had money that they were just like, look, I'm going to get more by staying in college and maybe fighting for what the NFL will give me. So today, not today, but actually, through this whole draft process, I was kind of surprised to see Yaxel Lindenberg go to Michigan. He had the rumor is he has a $3 to $4 million NIL evaluation with Michigan. He left the NBA draft. He was getting first round grades from them, late first round, not early, but late. So he goes back to college. Taj Pettiford from Auburn, he goes back to college. He was getting late first-round grades as well.
I think that was the right move.
Condon from Florida, he
welcome
went back.
back.
Yeah, welcome back. He went back.
And we get Xavier Lee and Boogie Flan.
And Boogie. So, there's some situations there. So, Odia Getwa from Kentucky, he goes back. So there were some guys that I thought were potentially going to stay into the draft that just decided, you know what, I'm out. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get this guaranteed money. I don't know long-term if it's good or if it's great short-term for the college game. The long-term ramifications could be, so like Yaxel Lendenberger now, he would probably go anywhere between, 20 to 30, right? So he goes back to Michigan. He gets his $3-4 million. And look, hats off. Get what you get. Here's the issue. If he goes back to college and he doesn't do what people thought, you can very easily become a guy who the next year you go through the draft process where either you don't get picked or you go a lot later than you would have went if you went out the year before. So it's just one of those things, man. I look, hats off to the young men. I mean, look, I think some of them are making the best decisions they can make for their families, and I can't hate on that. But at the end of the day, it is a roll of the dice. It is risky. It is something that I see a lot of people saying, oh, well, it's a slam dunk decision. I don't think it's a slam dunk decision because, the NBA draft is an unusual process. It's more like you got to strike when the iron's hot. If you're not hot and you come out, you could definitely lose millions of dollars. So, right now we're giving these guys a lot of credit for going back to school, as we should. But at the flip side, if they come through the process next year and they don't get drafted at all, then they've cost themselves millions of dollars that they would have potentially had. Because, if you go in the NBA draft in the first round, you get a guaranteed 3 or team option 4-year contract.
Absolutely.
So, look, I respect what Yaxel's done. I respect what Taj Pettiford's done. I hope it works out for them. But it is a roll of the dice. It is something that they might look back on and say, man, I should have just stayed in the draft. So we'll find out if it was the right decision or the bad decision. Just to me, it was the first time I remember in a very long time seeing somebody that the NBA said, you're probably going to go in the first round, say I'm going back to college. Other than maybe like Tim Duncan. But Tim Duncan never declared for the draft. So that's the difference. So it was interesting for me. It was the first time I've seen this in a very long time. So, I hope it works out for all the young men out there that are chasing these dreams and getting the money that they richly deserve. But at the same time, it's a roll of the dice.
Yeah, and it's going to, again, continue to be this way now for who knows how long, until maybe they make some minor changes to everything that has happened over the last few years. But that's going to be it. It's going to be very interesting to see. And we just saw, we give a shout-out to our guy, Rob Wright, Delaware native, who just got his money going from Baylor to BYU. Again, we know how the Cougars have a very nice NIL fund over there. And fact. Again, all rumors. We don't know anything for sure, but again, rumors are close to $3 million for Rob Wright to head from Baylor to BYU. So shout out to our guy Rob Wright there. Go get some money, and let's root for those Cougars next year over there. Get some Delaware blood back in the tournament. So shout out to Rob there. And then also the Royals calling up Jack Caglione tomorrow from the Florida Gators. Obviously, 6th overall pick in last year's draft. He's hit 6 home runs in his first 8 games in AAA. So he'll be getting the call up tomorrow. So shout out to him and good luck to him when he gets there in his first MLB game with Kansas City. So that's going to be fun to watch. Definitely something to pay attention to. And I think that wraps us up here.
Was there
on Monday night.
Not to cut you off, but wasn't there an Ohtani type guy?
That's him.
That's him.
Yeah, okay, and he hasn't done any pitching yet, but he's
no pitching.
Gotcha. No pitching yet, but maybe at some point in his career. But yeah, he's got Aaron Judge and Ohtani power. He is a lefty that smashes the baseball. Right. So hopefully he'll be ready to go for the Royals tomorrow. They need him. They're struggling a little bit at the plate, so they got to bring him up and get him going.
Okay.
But other than that, we are here we've got the Thunder and the Pacers. We have made our official predictions there for the NBA Finals. NBA Draft coming up again 2-3 weeks from today. We will have our NBA Draft and preview show. We'll get you all of Matthew's notes and his rankings, his mocks, and we're going to break down all those player profiles that he has for the first round talents there. And then, of course, some other things as we get into our NFL stuff later on in the summer. So for Dennis, Matthew, and myself, we will see you next Monday. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the NBA Finals.